I arrived at my parents' $5,000 anniversary dinner, having paid for every single plate. My brother, the golden child, raised his glass for a toast and humiliated me in front of everyone. So I left. They never saw the trap I had set with the manager. This is where my old life ended and my new one began. Make sure you're subscribed to see how it all unfolded. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The crystal glass in my hand felt impossibly heavy, a small, cold weight in my suddenly clammy palm. I was sitting at the head of a long, mahogany table in the private dining room of El Ambrisi, a restaurant so exclusive it didn't so much as have a sign. Soft light from a modern chandelier glinted off the silver, and the low hum of polite conversation filled the air. This was it. This was the moment I had been working toward. "A toast," my father, Connor, announced, his voice booming with a false heartiness that always set my teeth on edge. He beamed at my mother, Paige, who was preening in a new dress, a dress I had paid for. To 40 years with this beautiful woman. 40 years of joy, family, and... He gestured around the room at the 20 assembled guests, a mix of old family friends and distant relatives. And to our wonderful children, Marcus and Hannah, for making this all possible. My stomach gave a hopeful little flutter. He said my name, he included me. I had arranged everything. The reservation, the custom menu, the wine pairings, the towering floral centerpiece. The bill, which I had pre-negotiated with the manager, was a staggering $5,000. It was an extravagant sum, but it was for their 40th anniversary. More than that, it was a gesture, a desperate, oversized plea to finally be seen by them. My brother, Marcus, stood up, raising his own glass. He had that easy, careless smile that had always charmed everyone, especially our parents. At 36, 2 years my junior, he still carried himself like the high school quarterback who expected the world to part for him. "To Mom and Dad," Marcus began, and the room quieted. "And to my big sister, Hannah." My breath caught. I looked at him, surprised and wary. He so rarely acknowledged me at these events, except to ask for a loan. "She flew all the way here, took time out of her very important job," he continued, his smile tightening just a fraction. I felt a familiar prickle of warning. "And she was generous enough to foot the bill. I guess." He paused, sweeping his gaze across the opulent room, the plates of untouched amuse-bouche, the waiters standing by in crisp uniforms. "I guess even strays can pay sometimes." The words landed like stones in the quiet room. A few people gave uncertain, tittering laughs. My father, Connor, cleared his throat and looked down at his plate. My mother, Paige, offered a strained, tight-lipped smile, her eyes flicking to me for a brief, warning second, as if I had caused the disturbance. "Strays." The word echoed in my head, igniting a cold, chemical fire in my veins. It was his old name for me, from when I'd left for college on a scholarship they hadn't supported. I was the one who'd run off to the city, the stray who'd abandoned the family, while he, Marcus, had stayed close, bouncing between jobs and living off their endless support. I looked at their faces. My brother smirking, triumphant in his casual cruelty. My mother, embarrassed but not for me, only by me. My father, utterly silent, refusing to meet my gaze. In that instant, every ounce of hope, every desperate desire for their approval, simply evaporated. It wasn't just a prickle of disappointment, it was a profound and sudden void. I had spent 38 years trying to fill a cup that was, I now realized, riddled with holes. I placed my champagne flute, untouched, back on the white linen. The heavy, cold feeling was gone, replaced by an absolute, terrifying clarity. I didn't tremble. I didn't cry. I stood up. My chair made a soft scraping sound on the polished floor. All eyes turned to me. Marcus's smirk wavered, replaced by confusion. "Hannah, sit down," my mother hissed, her smile frozen in place. Marcus was joking. "No," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. It felt like it was coming from someone else. He wasn't. I picked up my purse from the floor. I turned to my father. "Happy anniversary, Dad." I looked at my mother. "Mom." Then I turned my back on all of them. I walked to the velvet-draped alcove where the attendant had taken my coat. I retrieved the simple black wool coat, the one I'd bought at a department store, not a boutique, and slipped it on. I didn't look back. I walked past the startled waiters, through the main dining room, and out the heavy oak doors into the cold night air. The valet rushed forward, but I waved him off and kept walking. As I rounded the corner onto the main street, my phone began to buzz in my coat pocket. A text from Marcus. Wah. Tea is your problem. Get back here. You're embarrassing Mom. I ignored it. Another buzz, my mother. Hannah, this is not the time. Come back and apologize to your brother. I hailed a cab. As I climbed in, I felt a strange, hollow lightness. The driver asked where I was going. I gave him the name of my hotel. The cab pulled into traffic, and I watched the elegant, understated entrance of El Ambracey disappear behind me. 30 minutes, I thought to myself. I'd give them 30 minutes. That was the grace period I de-arranged with the manager. 30 minutes from the time I left for the bill to be delivered to their table. The phone in my hand buzzed again, this time a call from my father. I let it go to voicemail. The betrayal wasn't just the insult, it was the silence that followed. The phone call with the restaurant manager, a meticulously professional man named Mr. Dubois, had happened 3 days prior. I made it from my hotel room, not my office, just to be safe. Ms. Evans, he'd said, his voice polite but firm. To confirm, you are reserving the private Salon Rouge for 20 guests. You have approved the menu exceptional with the sommelier's pairings. The total, including gratuity and service fees, will be $5,000. That is correct, I said, staring out my window at the city skyline. But I have one specific condition regarding the payment. There was a slight pause. A condition, madam. Yes, I am a portfolio manager, Mr. Dubois. I deal in risk and verification. I will, of course, place my corporate card on file right now to secure the reservation. I gave him the number, the security code, and the billing address. I heard the faint tapping of a keyboard. Very good, Ms. Evans. The card is approved. The hold has been placed. Here is the condition, I said, leaning forward. The final charge is not to be processed until I give you a verbal confirmation code at the end of the evening. Another pause, longer this time. A confirmation code. Yes, let's call it vindication. A simple word. I will find you as the party is winding down. I will say the word vindication, and you will process the charge. If I do not give you this code by the time I leave the premises, you are to assume the payment arrangement has defaulted, and you will present the bill to the hosts of the party. Madam, the host of the party, is you. The reservation is under my father's name, Connor Evans. I am simply the one handling the finances. If I fail to authorize the charge, the financial responsibility reverts to the name on the reservation. Is that clear? Mr. Dubois was silent for a moment. I could picture him, silver-haired and impeccably dressed, weighing the eccentricity of the request against the $5,000 hold on my card. I was counting on his professionalism. And if you forget, he asked delicately. I won't forget, I said. But let's say, for the sake of argument, I have a medical emergency, or I must leave unexpectedly. In that event, my failure to provide the code constitutes a revocation of my payment offer. The bill must be presented to Mr. Connor Evans at table 12 in the Salon Rouge. You will not, under any circumstances, charge my card. This is highly irregular, he said. This is a non-negotiable condition, I replied, my voice flat and final. If you cannot agree to it, I will be forced to move this event to Lucille, which I am sure would be happy to accommodate my terms. The threat was empty. Lucille was booked for months, but it had the desired effect. No, that will not be necessary, he said quickly. Your terms are clear. My apologies, I have been in this business for 20 years and have never had such a request. Then I'm glad I could offer you a new experience, I said. To confirm, you will not charge my card unless I personally find you and say the word vindication. Otherwise, the bill goes to Connor Evans. Yes, madam, understood. Now, sitting in the back of the taxi, that conversation replayed in my mind. It had been a last-minute impulse, a nagging feeling of self-preservation. I justified it as a simple precaution. After all, the last time I'd paid for a family vacation, a trip to Hawaii they had all but demanded, Marcus had accidentally charged $2,000 worth of scuba lessons and spa treatments to my room, and my parents had refused to make him pay me back. "Don't make waves, Hannah," my mother had said. "You can afford it." That was the line that always followed me. You can afford it. Because I had been successful, because I had built a life for myself as a portfolio manager in a competitive firm, my wealth was seen as a public utility for the rest of the family. My accomplishments weren't a source of pride for them, they were a resource to be tapped. My phone buzzed again, vibrating angrily on the seat next to me. It was a text from Marcus. "Dad is furious. You've ruined their night. You are the most selfish person I have ever known." Selfish. The word was so familiar, it had almost lost its sting. I was selfish for not co-signing the lease on his luxury apartment. I was selfish for not lending him $10,000 for his last, brilliant business idea. I was selfish for prioritizing my career over being at their beck and call. The taxi pulled up to my hotel. I paid the driver, walked into the bright, sterile lobby, and took the elevator up to my room. The silence of the room was a relief. I took off my coat, hung it in the closet, and sat on the edge of the king-sized bed. My phone, clutched in my hand, lit up again. This time it was a call. Paige Evans, my mother. I stared at the name. I thought about the decades of small cuts, of being told my scholarship was a bit showy, of my mother taking Marcus's side when he'd wrecked my first car and lied about it, of my father looking on, silent and approving, as Marcus was praised for things I had achieved. Guess even strays can pay sometimes. I pressed the red decline button. Right on cue, a new text message popped up. This one wasn't from my family. It was from a number I didn't recognize, but I knew exactly who it was. "Ms. Evans, it is 9:32 p.m. You have departed the restaurant. As per our agreement, I have just presented the bill to Mr. Evans's table. They seem to be displeased. They are insisting I charge the card on file. I have informed them I cannot do so without your authorization. My apologies for the disturbance." I smiled, a real genuine smile that started slow and spread across my face. "My compliments to the chef, Mr. Dubois," I whispered to the empty room. My phone began to ring again, a frantic, shrieking summons. This time it was my father. I declined the call. A new text from Marcus, all caps, "Call Dad now. What did you do? The manager is here. This is a $5,000 bill." I turned my phone over, screen down on the nightstand. The buzzing continued, a furious, trapped insect against the wood. I stood up, walked into the marble bathroom, and turned on the hot water for a bath. The sound of the rushing water almost drowned it out. Almost. To understand my family, you have to understand the dynamic between Marcus and me. It wasn't just sibling rivalry. It was a preordained casting of roles from which we were never allowed to deviate. Marcus was the golden boy. I was the problem. Marcus was the one who could do no wrong. When he failed his exams in high school, it was because the teachers didn't understand his potential. When he got a DUI in college, it was a youthful mistake that my father's lawyer quietly handled. He drifted through his 20s, living at home, working a series of consulting jobs that never seemed to last more than a few months. His current gig as a real estate agent was, from what I could gather, more about posting pictures of himself in front of houses he couldn't sell than about earning a living. But oh, how my parents doted on him. My mother, Paige, would talk about him with a proud, hushed reverence. "Marcus is so good with people," she'd say, conveniently ignoring that he was terrible with money, responsibility, and fidelity. My father, Connor, saw him as an extension of himself, the son who'd stayed, the one who wasn't too good for his hometown. I, on the other hand, was the stray. I was the quiet, intense one who buried herself in books. When I tested into an advanced program, my mother worried it would make me socially awkward. When I won a full academic scholarship to a prestigious university, my father had frowned. "Why do you need to go so far away?" he'd asked. "There's a perfectly good state college right here." My selfishness, as they called it, was my ambition. I left. I went to that university, I got my degree, I interned at a thankless job, and I clawed my way up. I became a portfolio manager at one of the city's top investment firms. I built a life, a career, and a net worth that eclipsed theirs. I had done everything they said a person should do to be successful. But in my family's eyes, this wasn't success. It was abandonment. My success was a rejection of them, of their values, of their quiet suburban life. And worse, it was a glaring spotlight on Marcus's failures. The more I achieved, the more they coddled him, and the more he resented me. My money was the only part of my life they seemed to respect, and even then, only as it benefited them. I'd paid to fix the roof on their house. I'd covered the down payment on Marcus's sensible new car, a BMW. I was the emergency fund, the walking ATM, the one they called when the bills piled up, but I was never family. Not really. I was the stray, allowed in for a meal as long as I paid for it. I stepped out of the bath, the water now lukewarm. The buzzing from the nightstand had finally, mercifully, stopped. I wrapped myself in a thick hotel robe and padded back into the bedroom. My phone screen showed 14 missed calls and 22 new messages. I opened the thread from Marcus. "Marcus, what did you do? Marcus, they are threatening to call the police. Marcus, Dad doesn't have his checkbook. Paige is crying. Marcus, this is all your fault, you humiliated them. Marcus, pick up your phone, you coward. Marcus, I'm going to have to put this on my credit card. I hope you're happy." The last message gave me pause. Marcus putting $5,000 on his credit card? This I had to see. I knew for a fact his credit was abysmal. He'd borrowed my social security number years ago to apply for a card, an incident of identity theft I'd only discovered when a collections agency called me. I'd shut it down, paid the bill to protect my own credit, and confronted him. He'd laughed it off. "It was just a mistake, Hannah. Relax." This time I was relaxed. I was perfectly calm. I picked up the phone and opened my contacts. I didn't call my family. I called Sarah, my colleague, and more importantly, my lawyer. It was late, but she was a night owl. "Hannah," she answered, her voice sharp and alert. "Is everything okay? It's past midnight your time." "Everything is fantastic, Sarah," I said, walking to the mini fridge and pulling out a small bottle of water. "But I think I'm going to need you to draft a letter for me in the morning." "A letter to who? What happened?" "To my family," I said. "A cease and desist. And also, I need you to pull a full credit report on my brother, Marcus Evans. I have a feeling he's about to do something very stupid again, and I want to be prepared." "Hannah, what did you do?" Sarah asked, but there was a note of amusement in her voice. She knew my family. "I just left dinner," I said, taking a sip of water. "I just left them with the bill." There was a long silence on the other end, and then Sarah let out a low whistle. "The anniversary dinner? The one you were so stressed about? The $5,001. "That's the one." "And you just left." "I just left," I confirmed. "So, about that credit report." "I'm on it," Sarah said. "Consider it done, and Hannah, welcome to the rest of your life." I hung up, feeling a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying lift from my shoulders. The phone buzzed one last time. A text from my father, Connor. "Dad, I have never been more ashamed of you in my life. You are no daughter of mine." I read the words, "You are no daughter of mine." For 38 years, that sentence would have destroyed me. It would have sent me scrambling, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, writing a check to smooth things over. But tonight, I just read it and I felt nothing. Nothing but the quiet, clean emptiness of a cage door swinging open. "Okay," I whispered. I set the phone back on the nightstand, screen down. I got into bed, pulled the covers up to my chin, and for the first time in as long as I could remember, I fell asleep instantly. The next morning, I woke up to silence. I had slept a deep, dreamless 8 hours. The sun was streaming through the curtains and my phone was dark. Sometime during the night, it had died. I felt a small pang of anxiety, the reflexive urge to check, to see the damage, to manage the fallout. I ignored it. Instead, I ordered room service. Coffee, eggs Benedict, and a side of fresh fruit. I took a long shower, letting the hot water sluice away the last remnants of the Lambresi. When I was dressed, I plugged in my phone and sipped my coffee while it booted up. The barrage was predictable, a wall of vitriol. Missed calls, angry voicemails, and texts ranging from threats to pleas. Marcus, I had to pay. My card almost got declined. You owe me $5,000. I am not kidding, I'm calling a lawyer. Paig, Hannah, darling, I think we all just got off on the wrong foot. Your brother was teasing, you know how he is, you overreacted. Please call us, your father is very upset. Connor, do not bother coming home, you have made your choice. The most interesting one was the text from Marcus. I had to pay. I knew his financial situation. He was a real estate agent in a slow market, living well beyond his means to keep up appearances. There was no way he had a $50 meet zero credit limit, not unless. My laptop chimed, an email from Sarah. Subject, well. Body, morning. I ran that report you asked for. Your brother, Marcus, is in significantly more debt than you thought. Credit cards maxed out, a high-interest personal loan, but here's the interesting part. He was recently approved for one new card, a high-limit business card. He got it by listing himself as a co-owner and officer of your parents' company. I stopped, my coffee cup halfway to my mouth. My parents' company? They didn't have a company. My father was retired from a mid-level management job at a paper company. My mother hadn't worked in 30 years. I typed back, what company? Sarah replied almost instantly. C&P Enterprises, LLC, formed 6 months ago. As far as I can tell, its only asset is their house. He must have had them sign the papers. Hannah, they put the family home into an LLC, and he is listed as the managing partner. The blood drained from my face. This was so much worse than I thought. This wasn't just petty jealousy and name-calling. This was fraud. Marcus hadn't just used their names. He had leveraged their only significant asset, the house I had helped them maintain, the house whose roof I had paid for, to fund his lifestyle. And he had just dropped $5,000 on that business card, likely a cash advance or a charge that would trigger an insane interest rate. This changed everything. This wasn't about a ruined dinner anymore. My parents were in real danger. My first instinct, the old, conditioned instinct, was to fix it. To call my father, to transfer the money, to clean up Marcus's mess before they lost their home. I put my head in my hands. The stray was about to save the farm, again. But then I thought about the text from my father. You are no daughter of mine. I thought about my mother's placating voice. You know how he is. They had made their choice. They had chosen the golden boy, the one who was, at this very moment, steering them directly off a financial cliff. My clever trap at the restaurant wasn't just about the $5,000 bill. I realized it now. The trap was the bill itself. It was a catalyst. It had forced Marcus to expose his hand. He had used a fraudulent card to pay a debt I was never supposed to leave behind. He had dug his own grave. The question was I going to pull him out? I called Sarah back. He's using their house as collateral, I said, my voice shaking with a new kind of anger. It wasn't hurt anymore. It was a cold, sharp rage. He's going to make them homeless. It looks that way, Sarah said grimly. The LLC agreement probably gives him broad powers. He can likely take out a business loan against the house's equity. That $5,000 charge is just the beginning. What can I do? Legally, your parents are the victims. They would have to press charges against him for fraud. And we both know they won't do that. No, I agreed. They'll blame me. They'll say I forced him to do it by leaving the dinner. Exactly, Sarah said. So what do you want to do? I looked out the hotel window. The city was busy, people moving with purpose, living their lives. My life, the one I had built, the one I refused to sacrifice on the altar of their dysfunction. I'm not going to fix it, I said, the words tasting strange and powerful. I'm not sending them a cent. Good, Sarah said, but you can protect yourself. And maybe, just maybe, you can give them a way to protect themselves if they ever wake up. How? We draft a document, Sarah said, her voice warming up, the lawyer in her sensing a strategy. We compile the evidence. The LLC formation, the business card application, a record of the El Ambrosy charge, we package it all up. We don't send it to them, we hold it. It's our leverage. Leverage for what? For the next time they call you for money, Sarah said. For the next time Marcus tries to pull you into his mess. You'll have proof of what he's capable of. This isn't just a spat, Hannah, it's a legal shield. Okay, I said, my resolve hardening. Do it, get me everything. I had a new plan. I wasn't just walking away. I was building a fortress. The trap had been sprung, and it had caught a bigger predator than I'd intended. But I wasn't going to be the bait. I packed my suitcase, my mind clear. I had one more stop to make before I went to the airport. I was going to go see Mr. Dubois. I needed a copy of that receipt. The restaurant was quiet when I arrived just before the lunch service. The scent of fresh bread and lemon polish hung in the air. Mr. Dubois was at the host stand, reviewing a seating chart. He looked up as I approached, his expression perfectly neutral, but his eyes held a flicker of something. Recognition, pity. Ms. Evans, he said, inclining his head, I did not expect to see you. Mr. Dubois, I said, offering a small, professional smile. I apologize for the scene my family caused last night. It was not my intention to put you in such an awkward position. He gave a very slight, very Gallic shrug. In my 30 years, Ms. Evans, I have seen families implode over far less than a menu exceptional. It is not uncommon. I'm sure, I said. I am here because I need a favor. I require a copy of the final, itemized receipt from last night's dinner. Specifically, the one showing the method of payment. Mr. Dubois raised an eyebrow. That is a delicate request. The transaction was not with you. The transaction was fraudulent, I said, lowering my voice. The card used to pay that bill was a corporate card for an LLC. I have reason to believe the man who used it, my brother, is not an authorized signatory and is, in fact, commingling personal expenses. The charge for a $5,000 personal dinner on a business card is the sent piece of evidence I need. Mr. Dubois' professional mask slipped. He looked genuinely concerned. Fraud. I'm afraid so, and it involves my parents, who are the true owners of the company he is exploiting. I am trying to build a case to protect them. This, I could see, resonated with him. He was a man of order, of rules. The idea of fraud, of someone soiling the reputation of his establishment with a bad payment, clearly offended him. I see, he said slowly. He typed something into his computer terminal. The small receipt printer next to him whirred. He plucked the paper from the machine, studied it for a moment, and then folded it neatly. He retrieved a small envelope, slid the receipt inside, and handed it to me. This is a guest copy, he said formally. I cannot give you the merchant copy, which has the full signature, but our security cameras in the Salon Rouge are motion activated. They would have clearly recorded Mr. Marcus Evans signing the bill. Should your lawyer, or the authorities, request the footage, we would be obligated to comply. I took the envelope. This was more than I could have hoped for. Mr. Dubois, you have been incredibly helpful. Thank you. I am merely protecting the integrity of the transaction, Ms. Evans, he said. Good luck. I walked out of the restaurant and into the bright sunshine, the envelope in my hand feeling like a weapon. I headed straight to the airport, ignoring the fresh round of texts that had started. My flight was in 2 hours. As I sat at the gate, I finally allowed myself to open the message thread from my mother. PAIG, Hannah, I am begging you. Your father is beside himself, you have to fix this. Marcus he's very stressed. He used his business card and he said if he can't pay it back, he'll lose his job. PAIG, he told us you promised him you'd pay for the dinner and then you deliberately tricked him. PAIG, Hannah, please. We are your family. You are tearing us apart. You are tearing us apart. Not Marcus with his lies and his theft. Not my father with his cruel silence. Not her with her decades of enabling. Me, the stray. The one who finally said no. The manipulation was so transparent, it was almost pathetic. I felt a surge of pity, not for them, but for the person I used to be. The woman who would have received that text and immediately burst into tears, booked a flight home, and written a check. I typed a single reply. My fingers were steady. Me, Marcus lied. The card he used was from an LLC, C&P Enterprises, that he formed using your house as its only asset. He has been using your home as his personal bank. The $5,000 dinner was just the latest withdrawal. I suggest you and Dad hire a forensic accountant and a good lawyer because Marcus is committing felony fraud and he is going to make you homeless. Do not contact me again. I hit send. Then I did something I should have done a decade ago. I opened her contact. I blocked her number. I blocked my father's number. I blocked Marcus's number. A profound, total silence settled over my phone. It was done. My flight was called for boarding. I stood up, rolled my suitcase behind me, and didn't look back. I had left them with the bill, but more than that, I had left them with the truth. What they did with it was, for the first time in my life, not my problem. The flight home was the most peaceful 5 hours I'd had in recent memory. I turned off my phone, put on noise-canceling headphones, and watched a truly terrible romantic comedy. I slept. When I landed, I felt rested. That feeling lasted until I unlocked my front door. There was a man sitting on the bench in the hallway outside my apartment. My blood ran cold. It was Marcus. Hannah, he said, standing up. He looked awful. His usually perfect hair was a mess, his expensive suit was rumpled, and his eyes were wide and desperate. Hannah, thank God, you have to help me. How did you get into my building, Marcus? I asked, my voice flat. I kept my hand on the doorknob, my suitcase a barrier between us. The doorman recognized me from Christmas. He let me up. Listen, I don't have time. You have to call them. You have to call Mom and Dad. I have nothing to say to them. I have nothing to say to you. Get away from my door. No, you don't understand, he hissed, taking a step forward. I instinctively took a step back. Your text, that text, they listened to you, they went to the bank. They've frozen the LLC account. They're talking to a lawyer, Hannah, a lawyer. They think I stole from them. I stared at him. I had not expected this. I had expected them to deny, to double down, to blame me. I had underestimated the power of the word homeless. You did steal from them, Marcus, I said. It's called fraud, leveraging their only asset for your personal use. It was just to get me started, he insisted, his voice cracking. The real estate market is tough. I was going to pay it all. Back and that dinner. That was your fault, you set me up. You knew I'd have to pay. I knew no such thing. I knew that I was no longer paying. The consequences of your own arrogance are on you. Now leave. I can't, he cried, and he actually slumped against the wall. Hannah, please, the bank. They called the loan. Because of the fraudulent activity, the $5,000 charge. They want the full amount or they're starting foreclosure proceedings. On the house. Mom and Dad's house. My stomach lurched. This was moving faster than I could have imagined. This was the catastrophic outcome I had wanted to avoid, the one I had, in some small, dark part of my heart, known was inevitable. I need $50,000, Hannah, he whispered, sliding down the wall to sit on the floor, his head in his hands. That's what the bank needs to stop the proceedings. Just $50,000. You have that, I know you do. I'll pay you back, I swear, every cent. I looked down at him, this broken, pathetic man who had, just 24 hours ago, stood in a $5,000 room and called me a stray. He had humiliated me for his own amusement, secure in the knowledge that I would, as always, absorb the cost. The old Hannah would have caved. The old Hannah would have seen her parents' home on the line and signed the check just to make the problem go away. But the old Hannah was gone. "No," I said. He snapped his head up. "What? Hannah, this is Mom and Dad's house. You'd let them be homeless just to get back at me." "This isn't getting back at you, Marcus. This is the consequence of your actions. You took out the loans, you committed the fraud, you spent the money, and now you have to be the one to fix it." "But I can't, I don't have it. You're the only one who can." "No," I said again, and this time my voice was steel. "I am not your safety net anymore. I am not the family ATM. You did this. You will undo it, or you will go to prison. Those are your options." You'd let me go to prison," he stammered, his face pale with shock. "I'd buy the ticket," I said. I opened my apartment door. "Get out of my building, Marcus," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "If you are ever at my home or my office again, I will file a restraining order, and I will give the police every piece of evidence Sarah and I have collected on C&P Enterprises. The receipt from El Ambracy is just the start. We have the LLC filings. We have the loan applications you signed. We have the security footage of you signing the check. It's all in a file. So help me God, you test me, and I will be the one who puts you in jail. Are we clear?" His face, which had been pleading, contorted into the familiar, ugly mask of his rage. You bitch," he spat. "You always hated me. You were always jealous. Goodbye, Marcus." I stepped inside my apartment and shut the door. I double-locked it. I leaned against the solid wood, my heart hammering in my chest. I heard a muffled scream of rage in the hallway, then the sound of a fist hitting the wall. Then, finally, the sound of the elevator dinging as it was called. I slid down to the floor, my legs shaking. The fortress had held. I was safe. But the war, I feared, was just beginning. 2 weeks passed in silence. I went to work. I met with clients. I had dinner with Sarah, who confirmed she had a file on Marcus that could put him away for 5 to 7 years. I lived in the quiet, sterile bubble I had created. Then came the email. It was from a generic, new address, but the sender was obvious. Paige Evans. Subject, please. Body Hannah, I know you blocked us. I am writing from the library. Your father and I, we are desperate. Marcus is gone. He's disappeared. The bank is seizing the house. They are auctioning it in 3 days. We have nowhere to go. Please, I am begging you. As your mother, don't let this happen. Don't let your father and me be put on the street because of one stupid mistake. We are sorry. We are so sorry for everything. Please just call me. We are at the Marriott by the highway. They were in a hotel. He had actually done it. He had run. He had left them to face the consequences of his crimes. The anger I felt was so profound, it was breathtaking. I was angry at Marcus for his cowardice, but I was furious with my parents. Furious that it had taken this total, complete financial ruin for them to finally say the words, "We are sorry." A part of me wanted to delete the email, to let them fall. "You are no daughter of mine," my father had said. But I couldn't, not when I had the power to stop it, but I would not be their savior, not this time. I called Sarah. They're auctioning the house. Can they do that? If the loan was secured by the house and is in default, absolutely, she said. The LLC is the owner. The bank is seizing the LLC's primary asset. I want to buy it, I said. Sarah was silent. Hannah, buy the house. It's my childhood home. As much as I hate what it represents, I can't let it go to a stranger for nothing, and I have an idea. I'm listening, she said. I'm not giving it to them. I'm going to own it, and I'm going to have them sign a rental agreement, $1 a year. Something that makes it ironclad legal that I am the owner and they are tenants, and I am going to write in a behavior clause. Sarah started to laugh. A behavior clause? Oh, you are my favorite client. What's it going to say? That I am not to be held liable for any of Marcus's debts, that they are not to give him money or shelter him. If they break the lease, they're out. It's the only way. I'm protecting my asset, and I'm protecting them from themselves, and from him. It's brutal, Sarah said. And it's brilliant. I'll get the paperwork. The auction is public. We can set you up as an anonymous bidder. You'll likely get it for the value of the loan since it's a foreclosure. 3 days later, I was the legal, anonymous owner of my parents' home, purchased for the exact amount of Marcus's fraudulent loan. I forwarded the deed, and the lease agreement Sarah had drafted to my mother's email address. Then I drove to the Marriott by the highway. I found them in the sad, beige lobby, sitting on a worn-out sofa, looking lost and small. My father, Connor, who had always seemed so large and imposing, looked gray and frail. My mother just looked tired. They stood up when they saw me. My mother started to cry, rushing forward to hug me. I put up a hand. Not yet. She stopped, confused. I'm not here to absolve you, I said, my voice echoing slightly in the empty lobby. I'm here to make a business proposition. Did you get my email? Paige nodded, wiping her eyes. You bought the house. I bought the house, I confirmed. It is now my property. I have stopped the auction. The bank is paid. The debt is gone. My father stepped forward, his face working. Hannah, I don't know what to say. We treated you. You treated me terribly, I said, cutting him off. You treated me like a stray. You sat there, silent, while your son, the son you enabled and protected, humiliated me after I'd offered an act of profound generosity. And then, when the consequences of his actions came due, you blamed me. You disowned me. My father flinched, looking down. I was angry. I didn't mean it. You always meant it, I said, the truth of it sharp and clean. For my entire life you have meant it, but that's over. I placed a folder on the coffee table. That is a lease agreement. I will rent you my house for $1 a year. You can live there for the rest of your lives, but you will sign this. Connor picked it up, his hands shaking as he fumbled for his reading glasses. He read it. Paige read it over his shoulder. A behavior clause, Paige whispered. It stipulates, I said, my voice pure business, that you will have no contact with Marcus regarding financial matters. You will not give him money. You will not co-sign any loans. You will not allow him to live in my house. If he shows up, you will call the police. If you violate this clause, the lease is terminated and I will evict you. And I will sell the house. You'd evict us, my father whispered, horrified. In a heartbeat, I said. This is not a negotiation. This is the arrangement. I am not your daughter, remember? I am your landlady. You will be tenants in the house your son stole from you, and you will live there by my rules. The rules are simple. You will finally, for the first time in your lives, stop enabling him. You will protect yourselves. In doing so, you'll be protecting my asset. Paige was crying freely now. Hannah, please, he's our son. And I'm your daughter. The words ripped out of me, louder than I intended. I was your daughter too, and you chose him over and over. Now I am making a different choice. You can have a home or you can have Marcus. You cannot have both. My father sat down heavily. He looked at the lease. He looked at my mother. He looked at me, his eyes finally clear. The fog of his pride and his favoritism had been burned away by sheer terror. He took the pen from the hotel desk. Where do I sign? It's been a year. My parents signed the lease. I paid to have the locks on the house changed, and I installed a security system which I monitor. They moved back in. Our relationship is quiet. We don't have holidays. We don't have long, chatty phone calls. I get a text from my mother once a week. All quiet here. Hope you are well. I reply, I am, take care. It's sterile, it's businesslike, but it's honest. For the first time, our relationship is built on a foundation of truth, not on a toxic quicksand of expectation and resentment. They are, for all intents and purposes, my tenants, and they have been very good tenants. The behavior clause was tested once. 6 months ago, Marcus, who I'd heard was living out of his car, showed up on their due. Our step, I saw him on the security camera feed. He was banging on the door, screaming, demanding they let him in. I watched, my heart in my throat, as my father opened the door. He stood in the doorway, blocking it. I couldn't hear the audio, but I saw him shake his head. I saw him point to the street. I saw Marcus push him, and I saw my father push back. And then I saw my mother, Paige, standing behind him, holding the phone to her ear. 2 minutes later, a police car rolled up the street. Marcus saw it, screamed one last thing at them, and ran to his car. He was gone before they got to the house. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother, "We did it. We are fine, he's gone." I text back, "I saw, I'm proud of you." It was the first time I had ever said that to them. As for Marcus, his life continued its downward spiral. After the police incident, he was arrested a few counties over for trying to pull a credit card scam. With no family to bail him out, no high-powered lawyer from Dad, he took a plea deal. He's serving 18 months in a state facility. I sometimes wonder if, in the end, it's the most stable housing he's had in years. I went to El Ambrosio last week, not for a family dinner. I took my team, the people who actually work for me and respect me, to celebrate a successful quarter. Mr. Dubois spotted me as I was leaving. He came over, a small, genuine smile on his face. "Ms. Evans," he said, shaking my hand. "A pleasure to have you back, a much calmer evening, I trust." "Much calmer, Mr. Dubois," I said, smiling back. "And may I say, the bill was worth every penny." As I left the restaurant, I didn't feel the need to look over my shoulder. I didn't check my phone for angry texts. The air was cold, but I had my own coat and I knew exactly where I was going. I was going home to a life I had built, a life I had paid for, and a life that was, finally, entirely my own. The balance sheet was clear. The debts were paid, and I was no longer astray.